What's going on? This Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing. And I want to start off by saying this is probably one of the first true fights in a good time that I actually deem as a true 50-50 fight. So this is going to be a part of my 50-50 club edition in my YouTube videos. And what I'm talking about is Terrence "Bud" Crawford and Showtime Shawn Porter. And people are like, Mike, how can you say that's a 50-50 fight? Bud gonna slap the shit out of Porter. And I'm like, hold on, my friend. Hold on, my friend. Pump your brakes. Pump your brakes, da. Me chat about that liquor mar. But anyways, I say it's a 50-50 fight because last year, a couple months ago when I was doing my video on Bud, like I always do, I always like to include the words from the fighter, in which Bud had actually said that he never truly had the names. Now he has climbed the ranks. He is a multi-divisional championship caliber type fighter. But a lot of questions were asked when a lot of people in the weight classes that he were in, they never collided. And then when you see stuff like what Regis Prograis did to somebody he fought right after he fought him, dismissed him in the first round. And you can't take away from the credit that he was actually undisputed at 140. You know, but there are some murmurings about how when Bud first came in as a pro, he dropped down. He's even been on record saying that to make weight, sometimes he wouldn't eat for, you know, a day or two, cutting weight, and so he didn't enter in a natural weight, his natural weight. So some of the moving up, you know, conquering the division and moving up, I mean, it lends itself to question because his nemesis, or what the fans have actually created, his nemesis in Errol Spence, a lot of people actually try to say and discredit Errol as being a weight bully because he came in at 154 and then went down to 147. I think he had like a fight at 154 and then went to 147, but Bud came right in and went to the lower divisions. And then he actually moved up when he was actually in the same company as the Shawn Porters and the Errol Spences. You know, we have two veterans in Showtime Shawn Porter and Terrence "Bud" Crawford. And what you have is a classic. I think this is going to be a classic dogfight in which that age-old saying, styles make fights, reigns supreme in this matchup. I believe that this is going to be a dogfight. A lot of people saying, oh man, Bud gonna slap the shit out of Porter. A lot of people saying, oh my gosh, Porter's going to upset the apple cart because Bud has never faced adversity. Well, what's my take? What I do know is whoever Shawn Porter gets in the ring with, he makes them uncomfortable. And what I'm starting to see in boxing is the winner, especially when you get to, you know, the elite status, the winners are the ones that are able to implement adjustments the best. The winners are the ones that take a Bill Belichick type approach between them and their corner to where they're going to negate what you do best and they're going to attack your weaknesses. And that's typical age-old Belichick. That's how he was able to be so successful over the years, because he's going to take away your best weapon. But what is Terrence "Bud" Crawford's best weapon? I believe that Terrence Crawford's best weapon is space and timing. He has a certain amount of combinations that he throw that if you don't have a game plan for him and you allow him to have the space and you allow him to actually get in a rhythm, then he will be able to slap you to sleep. He has one of the best It's like a slapping right hook. When he's in his southpaw stance, he's able to switch hit and go into orthodox, and he does it. He does not consciously do it. It's something that he does when he feels. So when he gets to change in his stance, it almost is an indicator that he's in his rhythm. Well, on the contrary, what is Showtime Shawn Porter's best attribute? Showtime Shawn Porter is a very rugged fighter. A lot of people knock his skill set and they diminish his skills because they say that, oh, he just doesn't have the skills, and all his biggest fights he always loses, and I don't think that that's true. Shawn Porter actually has a skill set that's not as traditional as the pure boxers, but it is a skill set that he has mastered, in which Showtime Shawn Porter can be very rugged. Showtime Shawn Porter can actually dart in, he can dart out, he can do a little bit of wrestling. I think they asked Adrian Broner after one of his fights, what did he think about the fight? And he was like, oh, well, what do you think about Shawn Porter? And he was like, well, I think he had 24 carries and, 206 yards. And, because they make a joke about him being a football player. But when you look at some of the things that Showtime Shawn Porter is able to do, and a lot of people say that you have to box Shawn Porter. And as long as you box him, like when he was going up against Errol Spence, they were saying, oh man, if Errol Spence would have just boxed him, it would have just been, he could have won a lot easier. But it was the stubbornness in Errol that actually says that he wanted to actually beat Shawn Porter at his own game. It's just like when they were saying that he couldn't outbox Mikey, so he went in there and outboxed Mikey. And then they were saying, oh, well, he can't outdog Showtime Shawn Porter. He went in there and he edged out a dog fight, But on the contrary, you have a lot of people saying that that's false, in that you can implement your own game plan in a boxing manner towards Shawn. Let me elaborate. They're basically saying that it's not up to you what kind of fight it's going to be. It's going to be up to Shawn. And I think Shawn has kind of proven that. When I go back and I look at him against the likes of Andre Berto, which I think would be the best thing that he could do in regards to fighting Bud, he mauled Andre Berto. Showtime Shawn Porter, he would actually dart in, he would dart out, he would dart back in, he would put his head in your chest, he'll throw that blind over, that overhand right, where he can't see, but he knows where your head is at, and he's practiced it because he knows his range of motion and how he likes to throw his punch. He does have a good punch variety. I think that he is perhaps one of the most athletic boxers out here. And he can make pretty much everybody that Shawn Porter fights, he makes them look ugly. He makes it look like an ugly fight. And I remember I used to watch Shawn Porter. I'm like, I can't stand watching Shawn Porter fight, man. He just make things so. But I have to tip my hat off to him, because me, like, who would want to just stand up and just box somebody, like, he probably would frustrate me. He would dart in and it's like, okay, well, when you fight Showtime Shawn Porter, you gotta wear your hard hat and you gotta pack your lunch pail, because he's gonna test you in ways that you haven't been tested before. You might get a clash of heads. You might get pushed up against the ropes. You might get manhandled, because Shawn has those broad shoulders. He's very strong. He has powerful legs. And he just like to make things ugly. He like to rough it up. He'll dart in, dart out. He's not going to allow you really to get in your rhythm. That's why I say that this is a true 50-50 fight. Now on Bud's end, Bud, he switch hits, and when he's in rhythm, it's almost like Bruce Lee. When he can be water. Bud Crawford is one of the best finishers in the game. He has a dog. The thing is with Bud is when you hit Bud, you basically get a rise out of him. It's almost like when two football teams are going at it, and it's pretty much punt and then punt, and then field goal, and then punt, and then somebody does a trick play and it's a touchdown, and then the other one come out and they come out in the second play, they do a bomb or they run a kickoff. It's almost like if you land a good shot on Bud and you really like buzz him, he wants to get his get back. And you can actually trigger Bud into engaging with you, which for Bud being the cerebral, just natural, fluid boxer that he is, sometimes him getting in those exchanges aren't the best thing. He has a skill set almost like no other. I think you have somebody like Boots coming up that is compared to Bud, but I'm not sure if they're really comparable, because I gotta study Boots more to know whether or not, you know, he's actually naturally doing it, or if he says, okay, this style, you know, this orthodox works best against this guy. I don't know if he just does it, you know, without actually himself flipping on the switch, and that he just naturally goes into it. However, Bud does present some challenges. He has very long arms. Yeah, and I think that would be an advantage, because they always talk about how Bud has extremely long arms. So the reach would actually lend himself to the advantage to Bud. And I really believe that this is a 50-50 fight. This is one where I won't be betting on this fight. I won't be picking an absolute winner. I think if I had to lean one way, then I would give Bud the edge. But then I come right back to saying, you know, we've never seen Bud challenged in the way that Shawn Porter is going to challenge him. We don't know if Bud is actually overlooking Shawn. And I reason that if Showtime Shawn Porter was such easy work, how come this fight had to almost go to purse bid? How come none of the top contenders in a Keith Thurman or a Danny Garcia or Ugas or even a Ray Robinson, because Ugas and Robinson actually beat Bud before, why weren't we able to see those fights if they were such easy work? And here it is, you know, when you're arguably top number one or top number two or top three in the pound for pound, depending on, you know, which style and whose list you're going by. If you're arguably up there in the top three in pound for pound, why is Showtime Shawn Porter your toughest fight? And Bud himself, for all the Bud OnlyFans, actually came out and said on paper, he had to qualify. He's like, yeah, on paper, you could say he would be my biggest test. Well, how would you get to this age and to get to this status, being world renowned as one of the top 3 pound for pound fighters in the world, and you're just now fighting your biggest test? That's what lends me to believe that Showtime Shawn Porter could actually pull this upset off. I'm not going to make a prediction, but my first take and that first look, I believe that this is a true 50-50, what they call pick 'em fight, flip a coin, and the best man on that night is going to win this fight. Body work.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you were here?
I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep Running Your Mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
As you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fucked solid up, man. You know what I'm saying? To the fans and all.
Today, y'all outside the ring. I'm a fighter. Like I said before, ain't no safety on the clock, so